I want to talk to you about spiritual medicine. Now, remember earlier I talked about physical beings, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual beings. I think we've talked about the others a bit, but in this section I want to talk about spiritual beings, spiritual medicine. But it's probably the most exciting part to me, and it's been the most uplifting and interesting as I've gone through my cancer journey. And when I mentioned that there's a spiritual component, it seems, to having cancer, my physicians all uniformly say, that's what people say. So let me share a little bit of that experience with you and some of my thoughts. And I'm hoping that some of you certainly will have much more insight and experience than I've had and can share that back with me. First of all, um, when I got diagnosed, people that I don't even know or people that I don't know as well started bringing me gifts, significant gifts. For example, my friend from Brazil brought me this bottle of water from Lourdes, France. And this bottle of water had been in their china cabinet for about 32 years. A family member had brought it to them, and they'd kept it, and she gave this to me. And I was so touched after my surgery when I put some of the water on me. And I was so excited that the surgery was successful. I tried to give it back, and she wouldn't accept it. I'm still trying to get to Lourdes, France, to actually be in the water that Saint Bernadette discovered. If you've seen that movie, Song of Bernadette. But I was so touched that somebody would take something so priceless to their family that they revered for 30 some years and share it with me, virtually a friend, but still not a family member. Then, about the same time, a neighbor that I never knew, never met, I found this one day in my mailbox. He had taken this handmade cross off of his wall. It's one of the few things he has in memory of his mother. When she passed away, he got that. And it was his mother's. And he took it off his wall and put it in my mailbox. And again, I've tried to return it. He won't accept it. Um, these gifts touched me tremendously. That people were so kind and so concerned and so loving and so willing to share something of themselves. So there's been a spiritual component like nothing I've ever witnessed, that continues to shock me, surprise me, uh, let me think about issues. Another example, I was walking with a friend through a health center. We were just looking at people on the bikes and on the treadmills, and we were just walking through a healthcare center. And a guy came up to me I'd never met, didn't know, and he said, "Excuse me, may I talk to you?" I said, "Yeah, if you want to, you can talk to me." And he said, "God told me to talk to you." And he said, "Can I pray for you?" I said, "Yeah, if you want to. Sure, you can pray for me." I'd never met this man. I didn't know anything about him. He didn't know anything about me. My friend looked at me and I looked at her and said, "Stuff like this seems to be happening quite often in my life now." So there's a spiritual journey to cancer that seems to be shared by other persons that I've talked to, and that's what I want to talk a little bit about. Um, Modern medicine, and this is according to this is a statement by the Remedy Ancient Medicines for Modern Illnesses series, said modern medicine can overfixate on our physical health, but the true healing journey encompasses all the domains of being human. And that's what I think is so interesting to me as I go through, and I would call it a journey. It's been a real experience. It continues to be exciting um, and different every day. And if you knew me, maybe you figured out who I'm a little bit by watching me. I've typically been pretty boring, very analytical, was always show me the data, show me the facts. I don't believe it. But the spiritual component is something I just can't explain. I can't wrap my mind around it. I can't analyze it. And I'm sure if my father, the Baptist minister, were still here, he'd say, see, Mary, that's what faith is. God is acting in your life. That's the spiritual connection that you're feeling. So I want to talk a little bit more about that. When I first got diagnosed, my son set up a Facebook account. And sure enough, because I'd been involved internationally with the Human Rights Convention for Persons with Disabilities, my colleagues started writing, "We're praying for you." And they went so far without me asking as to set up a prayer chain all over the world in different countries, in different regions, different religions, different denominations. Again, I didn't expect it. It's something unlike anything I've ever experienced. Uh, there's a poem that my mother wrote when she passed away in 2007. I found about 100 poems in drawers, uh, in her purses, in napkins in the kitchen, and I put a book together of her poetry because I wanted it as a keepsake and I wanted to share her poetry with others. She was a typical Baptist minister's wife, and they had a lot of funerals and a lot of dedications of young children, and a lot of times they had to be with people ministering to them during times where they were grieving or they were celebrating through marriage or certain life achievements. And so this is one that has been very meaningful to me while I've been ill, and it's about death, but it really isn't about death. It's about life, and it's about the continuation of the life cycle. And I want to read it, and then I want to share with you some of the material I've recently come across about healers. That deal with light, and some of the writings and teachings that I've recently discovered. So this is a poem by my mother. It's called "This Is Not Goodbye, My Dear." And I don't have it memorized, so I'll have to read it. "This is not goodbye, my dear, that body of clay I've left to here, to live in the celestial heaven above, where all is peace and joy and love. I'll speak to you through the stars at night. I'll glitter and twinkle, and you'll know I'm all right. I'll speak to you through those drops of rain. I'll speak this way again and again. I'll speak to you through the falling snow. I'll touch you gently, and then you'll know that love's a bond that can't be broken. The snowflake, the raindrop will be our token. I'll speak to you through the song of a bird, in a song, a language like you've never heard. I'll speak to you through the stormy night, through the thunder roar and the streaks of light. I'll speak to you through the baby coo, a message, dear, just for you. I'll see in your eye that tiny tear. Remember, love, I'm always near. God changed my body to another form. His way is right, have no alarm. He changed my body from a house of clay to a glorified one where I'll live for aye. In that rain, that snow, and those stars in the sky, I take many forms, but I did not die. For life's dimension is unending. This is not the end, just a grand beginning. Marion E. Blake. So I've always loved this poem, and I share it with people when a loved one passes away, because it doesn't seem final. It doesn't seem like you're not going to see the person again. To me, it conveys that there's this continuation of the life cycle and this continued connectedness, maybe with the soul of the persons that you love. In that context, I was reading about human energy fields. Remember, I'm a hunter-gatherer, and I keep searching for information for my own understanding, and just it calms me to read and learn and have new knowledge. And in the also vein of looking culturally at illness and health. I was looking at spiritual traditions, and it talks about the ancient Indian tradition, over 5,000 years old, and they speak of a universal energy called prana. Then they talked about the Chinese, a vital energy called qi. So this book that's by, it's called Hands of Light, A Guide to Healing Through the Human Energy Field by Barbara Ann Brennan. Through it, you can learn about the energy, the regions of energy that healers actually can, by laying on of hands, move the various energy regions around on a person's body toward healing. I've never experienced this yet. I haven't visited an energy healer as yet. I probably will on my spiritual journey as I go through this. But what was so interesting that I was reading that I felt connected to my mother's poem that I just read was when they're talking about how you can become your own healer or how you can work with a healer toward your own self-healing. Let me read just a few sentences to you. So you need to trust your body, not only in illness, but especially in illness, for what it's saying to you. Certainly, you are the one who is able best to understand, for it's within your language that your body has been formed. Your body directly is speaking to you. A spiritual healer can alter that consciousness to the oneness again and can bring you into alignment with the truth. So the language is a little bit complex and the concept is a little bit complex, at least from my mind. But listen, whether you're able to sustain the truth or whether you're able to heal an ailing body at the moment depends on so many factors I couldn't even enumerate them now. But you yourselves are perfectly capable of that. Talk about feeling empowered. As I said earlier, you are in charge of your healing and you are in charge. I believe you have to be active in your own healing cycle. If there is ultimately what in your human terms is a failure, which means if someone would, heaven forbid, die, then you must see it all as a blessed event. That soul has completed its task, and there is great joy and joyous welcoming committee greeting it in the primary reality. After all, your physical being was not meant to be infinite. Isn't that interesting? How the author separates the soul from the physical being? Which again, I connect back to the poem my mother wrote. This is not goodbye. I'm here. I'm in the coo of a baby. I'm in the song of a bird. I'm in the snow that's going to glisten in the trees. I don't fully understand what this is, but it's a journey that I'm continuing to delve into to have greater understanding. But to this point, I can say to you, what I've tried to describe is my individual therapy, my individual choices that I personally have made that's become my treatment. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not encouraging you to do what I do. Yours will be different, but I can at least welcome you to follow the recipe that I've tried to map out for you today. And I wish you all the best.